where we learned how porcupines make. Afterwards, an overlook. Who's excited? Afterwards, a beautiful lookout over this big, massive hole in the ground, and then we drove south. We drove all the way to Kasui Sand, where we rolled on the sand dunes. I don't know if you remember. Boris still remembers it from cleaning the bus afterwards. Afterwards, we drove all the way down to Eilat, stopping for lunch at this place, Yotvita, remember, with the cows, where some of you took pictures with the cows, on the cows, underneath the cows, behind the cows, you know. As has been said yesterday, we're liberal. We drove down to Eilat, checked into the Ramada Hotel, skipped candle lighting since we missed it, Americana Hotel. Afterwards, we met to talk a bit about Shabbat, to welcome Shabbat in. We had a festive dinner. We had an activity. The next day, we had another activity. Before that, Friday evening, we talked about expectations. Remember that? Keep that in mind while we wrap it up. The next day, Shabbat, we talked a bit about Judaism. What does it mean, if it means, the way it means, the fact that we can be Jewish in more than one way. Afterwards, we basically did nothing until late afternoon, when we did Havdalah, we lit candles, the last Hanukkah candle, and we went out for a night out. That was fun, although some of you were. Then, Sunday morning, we went up to Mount Spafot for a great overlook of 4 different countries. 4 different countries. 3 borders, 4 countries. Went down straight to the Red Sea to snorkel, and after we did so, we drove all the way up to the Bedouin tent, where we had a beautiful hospitality and festive dinner, a bonfire, and then very, very early next morning, we climbed up to Metzedat to enjoy a beautiful sunrise. Remember that? Decades ago, I know. Afterwards, we went down from Metzedat, breakfast, opportunity, brilliant. Floating experience on the Dead Sea. Afterwards, driving to Netanya. We drove to Netanya, and then we checked in, ate dinner. Masa before, remember, Masa representative, and then
not Masa.
Another night out in Tel Aviv. Beautiful. Half a night out, I know. Short. Afterward, the next day, we visited Tel Aviv. We went to the Independence Hall. We went to see Rami Meiri, the graffiti artist. We went to Rabin Square. Just before that, we ate lunch at the market. Remember the artist market? Nachlat Binyamin. And after Rabin Square, we drove up north through the traffic towards the Chula Valley Sabina Galil Hotel. Yeah, I know. Kind of yawning. And the very same evening, what did we do? Who remembers? What was that? Prepping for the Israelis. Prepping for the Israelis. Remember that? Remember that? Lauren?
Yes.
The next morning, we went to the winery. We all went to the winery, and afterwards we went to the Kibbutz Kfar Giladi cemetery. And afterwards we drove to Kiryat Shmona to pick our Israelis on the bus. Afterwards, driving to the Banyas, doing some get-to-know games. We did a short hike. I hope you know it. I hope you still remember it. Afterwards, we went to eat lunch, and afterwards we drove up to the Golan Heights, climbed all the way up to the Bental Mount for an overlook over Syria, and enjoying a very, very hot cup of coffee in a very cold weather. Driving down back to the hotel, the same evening we had a time session, talking a bit with the Israelis about how it's been so far. It was great. The next day, we went up to almost for a walk in Meron Mountain, went down to the Rashbi grave. Afterwards, we drove all the way to Tzfat. David Friedman, Kabbalah, arts. We enjoyed visiting that art gallery. Afterwards, we went to Livnat Libanot for a session. We passed through one of the main synagogues in Tzfat, talked a bit about Ha'ari and Kabbalat Shabbat, greeting Shabbat in, and afterwards we had a lunch opportunity in Tzfat, and we struggled through the rain until we made it to the bus, and we had a very, very long drive here to Jerusalem. We prepped for Yad Vashem Friday. We visited Yad Vashem. We tried to visit Mount Petra, though it was very, very short. We came back to the hotel. We met with Rabbi Tzvi that helped us greet Shabbat in. And afterwards, lighting the candles, greeting Shabbat in. We went to a festive dinner, Kiddush. We had the soldiers activity, the games, that I heard you all enjoyed very much. The next morning, Shabbat, we went to the Israel Museum. I hope you enjoyed that Holy Land model and the museum itself. We came back. Some of you went out with me for another short walk. We came back. We had another session with the rabbi, Bar Mitzvah. That's my first time having Bar Mitzvah on Taglit. I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. Afterwards, Havdalah. And then we went out to eat. You sort of enjoyed an Israeli atmosphere in the central bus station. We came back for our political update. I don't know what about you. For me, it was an amazing political update. And I was very, very excited when a lot of you did stay afterwards for the Q&A part until around 11:30. That was amazing for me. And of course, today we went all the way to the Commissioner's Palace Promenade for a very, very nice overlook on the Old City. Drove to the Old City, Mount Zion, Hebrew. We went to Mount Zion, and then